From day trading, you can make a lot of money. My best day was $1.67 million in one day. The day when I traded, I took one bad trade, but I walked out with...
How long do you think it takes to learn to day trade?
I started trading as a single dad. I was 19 years old. The day that I started trading or got into the market is the day I couldn't afford diapers. That same day I got fired from my work. I go home, my mom was like, "Where's diapers?" I was like, "Oh, my car didn't go through." She's like, "Well, good thing you got a job." I was like, "Well, I just got fired."
Today I have Andrew Diaz on the show. He is absolutely crushing it when it comes to day trading, trading stocks. And he's had a pretty incredible year. Made, I said, $7.7 million in 2022 and had one day where he made just under $1.7 million. He's investing in California. I think you guys understand where I'm at with California right now and what the investing landscape looks like. So we're going to talk about real estate, talk about investing money, talk about day trading, talk about what's going on in the economy, how you guys can make money. Andrew, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks so much for having me, dude.
Yeah.
Super happy to be here. Yeah. Man. Just like you said, I started trading at a really young age and kind of put that money into use into the real estate market and just trying to just make smart decisions for generational wealth, right? That's what it's all about.
You're making smart decisions investing in California?
Yeah. I've lived there my whole life. It's so funny. A lot of my friends are like, "Dude, you should move to Florida." Yeah. Now that I'm here, I'm just like, "Oh my gosh, I love it." But the kids, they all have their grandparents and stuff. So it's like one of those things where I don't want to pull them away just yet, but once the time comes, I could see myself over here on the East Coast, man.
Yeah. Dude, California, I love California. It has so much going for it, but it just seems like they're really trying to just beat up and smack property owners and business owners, people that are actually trying to supply jobs and tax revenue, which doesn't make any sense unless it's like, I don't know. It's just strange. The whole thing's weird.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, fortunately for us, we own different properties. So we have what we do, at least what I do in California, instead of getting kind of too heavy in commercial or buying like duplexes, what I do is I buy single family homes and then I turn them essentially into a triplex. So I look for homes that have like a 4x2, maybe 2,000 square foot with a detached garage and maybe like an addition. So like a kitchen addition, like 500 square feet, right?
Yeah.
And then what I will do is invest the money, and this is where the day trading comes in. I invest my money from what I make in day trading into these projects for long-term wealth, right? So we'll convert that junior ADU, and then we'll convert that garage that's detached and make it an ADU, maybe a 2x1 there, and then the junior ADU a 1x1. In Southern California, at least where I'm buying, we do a lot of Section 8.
Yeah.
So what people don't know about Section 8, it's government money. It's almost essentially guaranteed checks, and it's very hard for an individual from low income to get Section 8. So the likelihood that they're going to want to miss payment is, you have a reduced risk.
Yeah.
You have a reduced risk. So we use that main unit to pay the mortgage. Let's just say $4,000 easy. And then the 2x1, that's pulling in $2,600 or, sometimes $3,000 if you could make it a 2x2. And then that junior ADU is pulling in roughly $1,200.
Yeah.
So you're looking at a pretty good passive income, and then with that money, you just keep refunneling it and getting more of them.
So what is that? So that deal, is it basically you look for a lot that has like an alleyway in the back that's like an RD 1.5 lot to where it's like you already have the zoning set, you can pull the parking through the back and then you just...
Exactly. Yep. You pull the parking through the back, or sometimes we'll go off to the side. And then some of these junior ADUs, they'll have, we'll make a door on the side and then this way separate the two families. Sometimes we'll even, if it's a big enough lot, we'll make it ourselves. So we'll have to, starting from with an additional just ADU with a garage already made, roughly looking at about $150,000 from, insulation to, drywall, kitchen, gas, whatever. If you're starting from the ground up, probably a little north of like 200, 250, right, with the right team. So you got to come out of pocket with that, right? But that's pretty much what we do. So if it has a big enough lot where it doesn't have the detached garage, we'll put it in and put like a nice fence or something, and we look for that alleyway.
Got it. So are you building in LA County?
Ventura County.
Okay.
Yeah, Ventura County. So we primarily it's an area called South Oxnard, and that's primarily where I buy our rentals at.
Is that where you live?
That's actually where I grew up. So I grew up in Southside Oxnard, and then I went into it's another city within Ventura County, a very nice little spot. But I go back to Oxnard, and the the way I see it is, I'm making homes in livable places for people who wouldn't otherwise have a place to live.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I view being able to be a landlord,
Yeah. Are you buying more properties now?
I'm starting to, and actually while I'm here in Florida, one of the things that I want to do is kind of look for, maybe like a little vacation spot for ourselves.
Yeah.
But then from an investment standpoint, look for, hey, because California is really expensive. That's the other thing. When I'm buying these homes, they're like 600 to 700,000 depending, right? So you figure you put 25% down on a $600,000 house, you're looking at 150K.
Yeah.
Right. So 150K. Then just to say you're making an ADU from scratch, that's 200. You're at $350,000 out of pocket. Right. Some people were telling me like, hey, if you look out in Florida or you look out kind of more in the East Coast or even like the Midwest, you could probably find something nice. The only problem for me is I don't really know too many. Well, I have a lot of members from the trading group that are out here, but then you have to get into the property management side of things, right? And getting the right people. I'm on the other side of the country,
Yeah, and like even like in Florida right now, the prices 5 years ago were exactly what you described. Very attractive. Like you could come in here, you could pick up that's a similar deal that you would buy in California for 600K. You would buy here for 350. But now that 600K deal is 600K here.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, now you have to, manage, like virtually manage a construction crew.
Yeah.
Hopefully they don't screw you.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, like I'm going to hopefully walk this through. Sure. Like in the back end, you might have a better landlord-tenant relationship and dynamic.
Right.
In the court system in the event that they stop paying or whatever happens. But like the prices I think here are still really, really high.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just, I think
especially like hot markets. Like if you want to be in Wynwood or something like that, you're going to go spend like $1.5 million for a duplex or triplex almost. Like it's nuts.
Yeah, I think it had all to do with that whole COVID stuff, like everyone was home and that's where, people started moving. And I mean, that's how, to be frank, that's how trading really started to blow up too, from a business perspective and then from myself as well. It wasn't just these past three, I would say like 4, but that's where I really started to make the bulk of my money day trading where 2020, I think it was like just shy of like 1.5 or something like that. Just last year was $7 million trading options. And then this year I'm already north of 2. And, everyone starts getting home, everyone's home. And then trading just has become it was already popular, but now I feel like it's extremely popular, especially with this like new generation of people just wanting to be home and not work in the workforce. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Everybody wants a quick way out.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, how can I make money with putting in little effort and just like, work 2 hours a day and make 10K a month or 15K a month. And that's like what everybody wants now.
Yeah.
And it's like, I feel like, trading, it can, you're proving it can be very profitable if you put in the time.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
to really understand what the hell you're doing. Just like real estate, just like in anything.
Yep.
Right? Like what Dominic's doing.
Yeah.
You don't just like hop in and be like, oh no, I know exactly what to do day one.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people put the expectation on that with everything nowadays.
Yeah. It's funny because I bring the analogy of like, if you look at people that are really experts in their craft, like, I mean, look at it like a cardiac surgeon, right?
Yeah.
Like they spent so much time in school and then hours of like residency and like practice. And are you going to trust somebody to operate on your heart that's been doing it for a month?
Yeah.
Or do you want like the best of the best, right? And so it takes time. And I think a lot of people, it's that instant gratification these days. That's why, I mean, you look at TikTok or you look at Facebook or you look at, Instagram, right? It's 15-second reels is really what captures. 1.5 minute reels don't capture anything. And really within that 15 seconds, it's the first 5 seconds that are going to grab somebody's attention.
Yep.
And so it's sad, but, I guess it's the way that it's going. So like even with my kids, my son, my oldest, he's 13. I'm teaching him the importance of trading and being able to make his own money.
Yeah.
And understanding where the future is going. So like maybe coding or I'm having him like right now AI is big, right? So hey, dude, just spend time on YouTube just researching this. Just like watch stuff and like try to learn because that's his future.
Today's video is sponsored by Great Credit Fast. Do you want to invest in real estate or possibly Airbnb? Maybe you want to start and grow a company or a business or possibly get debt free. With great credit, you're able to achieve All of this and much, much more. The last thing that you want to do is borrow money from a credit card company paying 25 or 27% interest, because when you look at the real numbers and you look at what's actually happening in the economy, that's the worst strategy, and it's almost a guaranteed failure. Take a look at this. So if you're borrowing $10,000 at a 27% interest rate, paying $250 a month, it's going to take about 9 years to pay this off, and about $16,000 in wasted resources paid to one of these credit card companies. However, with great credit, you're able to do a balance transfer in most cases and get debt-free for 0% interest and pay this off in a fraction of the time. In 2008, banks started tightening up lending restrictions, and that's exactly what they are doing now. They're getting ready to tighten up lending restrictions, meaning that if you have that low credit score, 400, 500, 600 credit score, if you're in that even low 700s, it becomes much more challenging to get access to money. But if you look at Blackstone, for example, Blackstone, they are using their credit and their relationships to raise money. They've just raised $30 billion to invest in single-family rentals. If you want to invest in real estate, you want to really grow in scale during the greatest wealth transfer of all time, you're going to need great credit to do it. We would love to give you a free consultation to see how we can help you at greatcreditfast.com. That's greatcreditfast.com, or give us a call at 561-430-5900. Now back to the show.
Yeah, 100%. I have a 3-year-old right now that's like, I want to get a motorcycle. And he wants like a VW50.
Yeah.
And my wife's like, oh, I want him to learn how to read. And
Yeah.
so every night he'll sit there and read with her.
Yeah.
And then we have like this big jug of change.
Yeah.
And he'll get to put his hand in and grab as much as he can. And like, so like in 90 days, hopefully he'll have $1,700 to get his little motorcycle.
That's so cool, dude.
But like, we don't have $1,700 in change, but get the
Yeah.
point. Once you can read, we'll end up funding the rest of it.
Yeah.
But it's like, you give your kids the right habits and you put them in the right place, and the odds of them growing to becoming the person that they're capable of being is much more likely.
Is much more likely, so it's just setting up on the right track. And with these people that have like, from day trading, you can make a lot of money pretty good. Like like you mentioned earlier for the intro, my best day was $1.67 million in one day. I put essentially $60,000 on this trade. And this trade, the one thing I like about trading versus real estate is, at least the way that I see it, it's kind of recession proof. Because if news is going good, I can ride the wave up. If the markets are going bad or there's war or whatever, I could ride the wave coming right back down.
Yeah.
In real estate, you could kind of do that, I guess, but not in a day.
Yeah.
So with trading, I essentially, it's called buying puts. So I don't want to use the word bet, but a lot of people look at trading as gambling. So let's just put it in gambling perspective. I'm placing a bet that from where I'm getting in, if I buy a put, I'm betting that whatever stock that I'm invested in is going to come down. So in this case, I trade SPY, the S&P 500, and I'm betting that it's going to come down. Well, on this particular day, it went from $420 down to $405. That's only a 5% move. But in the option world, it can translate to thousands of percent return. So in this particular trade, it was over 13,000% return.
That's insane.
So for people that are like, what's 13,000% mean? That means if you put in $1,000, you would have made $130,000 if you captured the whole move.
Yeah.
Absolutely wild.
Well, what would be the downside risk if you don't play that right?
So this is the other thing why I kind of like trading and real estate but versus real estate, where trading, I set what's called a stop loss.
Okay.
So for simple math, let's say I get in at something that cost $1. I'm looking for it, if I'm going to buy calls now, so I'm placing a bet towards the upside, is I want that dollar to go to $2, and now I make 100% return.
Yeah.
If that dollar goes sideways on me, and let's say it goes to 95 cents, so 5% loss, I could cut my loss right at that point. So I'm not, and let's just say I put in, I don't know, $10,000. So I'm not risking the full 10,000. Once it hits that 5%, I'm only losing $500.
All right.
So that's kind of how, as a trader, what I really didn't understand when I first started getting into this, and what a lot of people that see, social is great, but it's also what people don't see is the hard work behind it. You just see the result, right?
Yeah.
So people don't understand that it took years to develop a strategy. And just like with real estate, you have to have a set plan and a team and execute upon the plan, right? You can't just go in and, I'm going to buy this dump. You can end up getting into it and it's like
way overpriced. You don't have the zoning, do what you want to do. It's just like
the zoning permits don't work. Yeah, you're stuck. And now what are you going to do? And now at that point, you're out almost all of that money,
Mm-hmm.
So with trading, there's some hedging that you could do to kind of protect yourself. But with it, when I first started, I was losing all the time. But when I was winning big. Like I would have $5,000 days, and this is when I started young. So people that don't know, I started trading as a single dad. I was 19 years old. And the day that I started trading or got into the market is the day I couldn't afford diapers. So the day I couldn't afford diapers, I go into Babies R Us and I can't pay. That same day I got fired from my work. I was working at Champs, making $7.25 an hour. And so I go home, my mom was like, "Where's diapers?" I was like, "Oh, my car didn't go through." She's like, "Well, good thing you got a job." I was like, "Well, I just got fired."
Yeah.
So that next day I went to Barnes and Noble and I found this book, which I think a lot of us have read, Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
Yeah.
Completely changed my life. But in that book, it talks about 3 main concepts: real estate, business, investing. So I was like, I don't have money for real estate. I don't know what to do for business. So I just doubled down on investing and just kept putting money into the market. 2016, I make my first mill. I also went the traditional route as well.
So how did
Go ahead.
From when did you work at Champs?
So I was 19 years old.
So when did you get fired at Champs? What year?
At 19.
No.
I started working at 16, and then I got fired at 19.
Oh no, what year was that?
2009, 2010.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it was a 6-year.
It was like about
Yeah.
And then so within that time, I was like, dude. So I get fired, and I'm like, all right, this sucks. And I go back and find another Foot Locker job, or it was like Dick's Sporting Goods, something like that, and start selling shoes. And then in the book, in Rich Dad Poor Dad, on the first chapter, he talks about how they were like doing a side hustle to make money. They're like counterfeiting pennies,
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, well, what's the side hustle I can do? And then I started realizing, well, I could get discounts off of shoes, and some of these shoes are really popular, like Jordans and stuff. So then I would just resell them on eBay for a profit. Then I just started reselling other stuff. So I was essentially what is in the modern day the eBay arbitrage, right?
Yeah.
And it started to get really good, where I was making about $500 to $1,000. But then in that whole time while I'm raising Tay and working, I'm going to school. So I get a bachelor's in bio. Fast forward, I get 2 master's degrees. I have a MS, a Master of Science in Biotechnology with the emphasis in biomedical tissue engineering. And then I had an MBA with the emphasis in finance and management. 2014, at the age of 24, I get a job at Amgen, starting off with a $65,000 salary. And so I had been surviving off of like less than 5. So all of that money went into the market, and I've been spending, along with doing all that stuff, learning and reading books on trading, investing, on just different stuff. And I dedicated my life to science. So naturally, I just started investing in tech companies and in small cap biotech companies. Small cap means there's a limited amount of shares, right? And so if the stock takes off, like say it has FDA approval or something like that, it could run up really high. So some of these went from like $2 to $50. Some went even from $5 to $200. And long story short, all that money kept going in, and I made my first meal in 2016. So then when I made my first meal, this is when I proposed to my now wife in Paris. We do this really cool thing, and we now have 2 kids of our own, and I have 3, right? And I was like, okay, I read this other book by Grant Cardone called The 10X Rule. And I'm like, okay, now that I made this money, how could I expedite this process? Not to get greedy, right? And that's when the day trading came in. So roughly at about the end of 2016, start of 2017, I start to day trade instead of investing. So I made my first meal investing, not trading. And as I'm trading, I put in 25K and I lost it within about just under like 3 months. But within that time, I was making 5K in like an hour, sometimes 5K in like the first 15 minutes. And then sometimes I was making 20K. And I was like, oh, this is really good. But then when it was really bad, I was losing like 35K or 20K or whatever. So it was this crazy roller coaster, and it was gone. However, it gave me like when you have like a Wagyu steak, it was like, oh my gosh, this tastes amazing.
Yeah.
I the only steak I have is now fucking Wagyu, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, so I saw this, and what it gave me a taste for essentially was freedom. Where it's like, you mean I can make $5,000 in less than an hour? What else can I do where I can make $5,000 in less than an hour?
Yeah.
There's nothing.
Yeah.
I don't know anything.
So like, but the thing is like, what is it that you like? Is it mainly you're just like watching volume and looking at charts and just like looking for certain signals and certain patterns, and then you're essentially betting that these patterns are going to either continue or fall apart?
Essentially, yes. So trading in the simplest form is broken down into two main concepts. Number one, finding a high probability setup for success, and that comes through your trading strategy and plan, and then mitigating the risk to lower your downside, and if it works out, have huge upside potential. So when I'm looking at these trades, and this is what happened after the development, right? Where it's like, okay, I had to go back and study, okay, well, what's winning, what's losing, why is this winning, why is this losing? And then I look at, oh, well, if I wait till, in the trading world, we call it resistance and support.
Yeah.
So essentially resistance is, just think of, hey, I can't get past this, think of let's take it to like real estate real quick. Think of, hey, here's my floor. So this is my support, right? I can't go down further than this unless like there's a basement, right? I have to go down the stairs. The ceiling right now, this is my cap. So if I was to get a ball and bounce it and hits the floor, what's it going to do? It'll hit the ceiling, and once it hits the ceiling, what's it going to do?
Come
Bounce
back down.
Come back down. So that ceiling is our resistance. That's our cap. Now, if there's a second level, I could go up the stairs, and now this ceiling just became my floor.
Yeah.
Right? So it's the same concept of trading, is identifying, okay, where's my ceiling based off of price and where's my floor? How I get that is through historical data. So I first start off looking at, okay, let's just use Tesla. Tesla is a common name everyone knows.
Yeah.
So I'll look at the year-long chart for Tesla and say, okay, at what point here throughout this chart do we have a common theme where we hit this price and it drops? There's my resistance level. So then I map those out. Then I map out, okay, where's my support levels? All right, I have a good gauge now. Okay, here's my resistance support based off of the year. Then I go into the month and do the same thing. So go macro, go a little bit more micro, and then I go to the week. And now from the week, it's called the 5-day, 5-minute chart. This is where I then will take my trades, but I already have my lines mapped out. So when I'm, above the floor, I'm like, okay, I know I'm at support. So I want to see if this support holds. And if it holds, then I'm going to place for lack of a better term, I'm going to place my trade and my bet, and I will be looking for what? Calls, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking it's going to go up. I'm at support. So if I bounce the ball at support, what's it going to do? Go up. So I'm at support, and I'll place my bet. And I'll say, okay, I'm going to put in X amount of dollars. It has all of the other indicators or things that I look for. It has a high probability to be correct. I'm going to put in, let's just use 10,000 for simple math. I usually trade with 40. So I'm going to put in 10K, and I'm going to hedge my position. So I'm not looking to lose more than, let's just say 2,000. So 20%. I'm willing to give back 20%. And then if I make 20%, then hey, great. And what I do, and this is how I'm able to be so successful on catching big winners, is once it hits that PT, so profit target, once it hits 20% profit, I'll trim a little bit off the top. It's just like playing blackjack, right? I go out with $100 to the casino. I make $100. That $100 I came with goes in my pocket.
Yep. And
Right?
you play with
and I play with house money.
Yeah.
Right? So now that I'm with house money, what I do is now move my negative stop to be my zero. So now if the trade goes away from me, I've already secured some profit to start. So now the remaining, whatever is remaining,
It was a free education.
I'm not losing anything.
Yeah.
So, and if it keeps riding up, today, I have my trade here today. Today when I traded, I took one bad trade, but I walked out with $2,265 right here.
Yeah.
$2,265, right? $2,000 in a day.
Yeah.
There's 252 trading days. That's $500,000 at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And that was right before coming here for half an hour of my time.
So how, let's kind of map out how the day is structured. So
Okay.
and I think we kind of talked briefly about people's perception of what it will actually take to get things done versus what it actually takes. So you say it takes a half hour, but people don't know about the 10,000 or 20,000 hours you put in before that
Yeah.
to get it down to where it can be
down,
boiled
yeah.
down to a half hour. So do you wake up and you're like, okay, you look at charts, you look at volume, you look at, you map all the patterns out. And then at that point, then you're looking at the news and then you're trying to gauge or how much research do you put in before the half hour of actual?
Yeah. So with trading, you could trade a lot of different things. So I specifically trade options, and with options, you want to trade what are called large caps. So your Tesla, blue chips essentially.
Yeah,
Amazon, Facebook, Netflix, Google's, all those, right? And you want to trade stuff with a lot of interest. So interest, essentially volume, right? Before 2022, I used to trade what was called small caps. and primarily like biotech. So with those, you have to scan the whole market and you have to use like a filter to kind of find things that meet your criteria. And maybe out of like 1,000 stocks, you find 100. And then from that 100, you filter it down to further criteria and find maybe 20. Now of those 20, you're analyzing and you're looking, and of those 20, maybe only 2 play out. So it's like, it was very tedious. So now what I do, and again, this is progression of learning, right? Because most people do that. Now what I do is just trade options where I only focus on 2 main things: the S&P 500, which is SPY, and Tesla, TSLA. That is it. So like if going back to here, what are the 2 symbols you see?
Yeah, Tesla and SPY.
Tesla and SPY.
Yeah.
And I made $4,000 on Tesla and I lost 2,000 on SPY today.
Yeah.
And so I just focus on those 2. So now it's just like in real estate, I could wholesale, I could flip, I could do the ADU thing, I could do
Airbnb,
commercial, I
like-
could do Airbnb, right?
Yeah.
There's so many different varieties of stuff I can do. But what at least the saying that I always go off of is fear the man that practices one kick 1,000 times versus the man that practices 1,000 different kicks once.
Yep.
Right? So when you start to narrow your focus, then you start to, and give it time, right? Like it's not going to be successful right away. Like the ADU thing wasn't successful right away.
Yeah.
You know, you have to put in the time and kind of master, okay, all right, this deal, it's a good deal. This deal isn't a good deal, right? It's the same thing with trading and finding where you have your edge to set up, again, the 2 factors: high probability setup and then mitigate risk. And once I know the math, and it's just like real estate, if I know the numbers don't lie.
Yeah.
I just reverse calculate. Okay, I'm going to make 20% off this deal. I'll take that.
Yeah.
Right? Easy, right? Versus like, how much does this cost have? Okay, maybe I can make, if I can reverse engineer it, then it makes it so much simpler. So I've learned to reverse engineer trading where it makes it simple for me to mitigate my risk and go up the upside. So what the day looks like is I just analyze two charts, SPY and Tesla. I look at the year, the month, the week. I see where is the stock at in relation to the level. Am I below the level? Okay, if I'm below the level and I'm right at resistance, there's high probability we're probably going to go puts today and come down, right? And so I'll wait and kind of see what happens. And so each candle is about 5 minutes. And what those candles look like, just so you can see it for yourself here, is they look like this. So
Yeah.
each of these increments are 5-minute increments. So I wait about 5 minutes to see, okay, am I going to be above the level or below the level today? If I'm above, then that level now just became my floor. I'm going to buy calls and write it up. If it stays below, it's my resistance. I'm going to buy puts, write it down. That simple.
Yeah.
And then I just mitigate my math, and that's all I do. So it really about half an hour before the morning starts is when I get up and I do all that. And then I use my math, my risk management essentially, to then protect my money. And then I take my trade. I do a live stream every morning with my members. We normally have, like, at this point now, north of 1,000. And they could follow along with me as I trade or what have you. And if it's done correct, just like today, my first trade was a loss today.
Yeah.
And it went south. And then I took 2 positive trades afterwards. So then ended up $2,000.
Yeah.
Right? Where a lot of people that are beginners, they go so heavy in on that first trade, where if it's a loss, even if they took a second trade, they're not going to be able to mitigate or even come out positive, you know? So it really comes down to being disciplined and patient for being able to do this. And where a lot of people fall, it's not the strategy side or the risk management side. It's the one thing that I haven't talked about, just like in anything, it's the mental. And in the mental side for trading, where the downfall is ego, fear, and greed.
Yeah.
And it could really hurt somebody.
So when you say greed, of your net worth, what percentage? Like if you were to do a pie, do you trade with?
Not even a fraction. So
Like 10% or 5% or something like that?
I'm a full disclosure type of person. I have a pretty good account. It's 8 figures. It's an 8-figure trading portfolio.
Do you trade with the entire account?
No. And so what I trade with is I trade with $40,000.
Yeah.
So even, let's just say, just
It's not going to wipe you out, regardless, whatever happens.
Just do 10 million, right?
Yeah.
If I lost 40,000, what's that? 4%?
Yeah.
Not even, right?
Yeah.
You know, so and then from there I'm only risking, you know, like I said, $2,000, $5,000, right?
Yeah.
So it's a really small amount. What I teach the members to do is just use $100,000. If you had $100,000 account, the rule of thumb per trade is you should never lose more than 1 to 3%. So off of 100,000, that means per trade, anywhere between $1,000 to $3,000 loss is the maximum.
Yeah.
And then per day, no more than 5%. So if I had 100,000, if anywhere I got close to $5,000 loss, I'm done. I'm closing my laptop, walking away.
Yeah.
And of that 100,000 now, and you guys could go back, rewind, and we'll get this math. Of that 100,000, I'm only playing with 10%.
Yeah.
So then that's 10 G's. But if I make 20% off that 10 G's, there's 2,000.
Yeah.
If I lose 20%, I just lost 2 G's. Is that 2 G's going to hurt the 100,000?
Yeah. Right.
Not at all.
Yeah.
You know, so that's how you do it. A lot of where people make mistakes, and I'm glad you point that out, is they trade with half their freaking account, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, what the fuck are you doing, dude?
Yeah.
You know?
Like I had friends that did extremely well in crypto the last few years. And they're like, oh, you should buy, they're telling me to buy ETH. You should buy a lot of ETH, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, how much should I buy it at one time? He's like, oh, no, don't never buy anything all at one time. Like pepper your buys over the course of like a month or two. And like every
so
week
they're
or
like
so,
dollar cost averaging.
Yeah. Like just because you don't know how it's going to play out, and we think it's going to, like he thinks anyway, and I have no idea. I'm not a crypto guy, but he thinks that ETH and some of these crypto like Bitcoin are going to do really well over the next 5 to 10 years.
I mean, he could be right, he could be wrong, but that's that. So that what you just talked about, it's a concept in the trading world as dollar cost averaging.
Yeah.
Because you don't know where the price is going to go, you don't know where that true bottom is or that true top is. So over time, they'll just keep adding to it, and that's more of from an investor standpoint of looking to hold for the long term. Day trading, the only time I ever add into something is if it's working in my favor. You don't want to add to your losers, because now what should be, you know, going back to this, what should be $1,000 loss now just became like a $5,000 loss or $10,000 loss.
Do you ever trade Did you ever trade crypto when like
No.
those altcoins were like bumping?
No, so many people wanted me to get into it, and I had a buddy back in like early 2014 when I got in Amgen was like, dude, you should buy Bitcoin, dude. I'm telling you. And I was like, get out of here, dude. I look back and I'm like, dang, I should have got some.
Yeah. It's really like so. And this could be like just me, like, but I get all these DMs, or at least like, before it was Forex, day trading, crypto. It was nonstop, dude, nonstop.
Yeah.
I got a DM 2 days ago from a guy saying that I just screwed him over. And I was like, who are you? And he's like, oh, and it was an account. This is John Williams, which is my username, 01.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
I get
it's
that
not
all the
even
time,
me, dude. Like I have no idea
all the time.
And like apparently he like invested with some guy. I'm like, that's why people like have a bad vibe towards a lot of different things. Is because like there's just so much like weird stuff going on.
I could go in and look at, if you go in and type Stock Market Wolf on Instagram, there's like
the hundreds.
Like hundreds.
Yeah.
Hundreds. And it's unfortunate, but yeah, it gives people a bad taste, and I think it's just you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And so when it's like going to a restaurant, right? And it could be like an amazing restaurant, and your first time there, like they're late for giving you your food, and like your food comes out cold. So your first impression is very bad.
Yeah.
So normally what are you going to say? I'm not going to ever go back.
Yep.
Right? I'm never going to go back. But it's like it's a freaking 5-star restaurant.
Yeah.
You know, now you're missing out on some really good food just because of one bad experience.
So my wife will always say like we'll find a restaurant we like. And I'm like, okay, cool. We're going to go like 3 times a week. Like, and we just like play it out. And then one experience is like, meh. I'm like, I'm never going there again.
Dude, I do that, dude.
Never going again. Yeah, like I'm like done. It's like I have no forgiveness with like, and then I always say like, when we have, if you're in the restaurant business,
it should be good.
But it's so hard to win, right?
It is.
Because people's expectations are through the roof.
Yeah.
And like they go there expecting like incredible service, incredible pricing, like really good food. And it's like, it seems like a really challenging business, but like, it's funny you said that with food.
Yeah. I had that same rule where it was like, you could tell my wife and my kids, and it's so funny because we'll go and like, they'll be like, there was this one day they brought all their food, and I was the last one to get it, and it was like 30 minutes later, everyone's already done with their food, and I'm just sitting there, and I was like, we're never coming back here again.
Yeah.
You know, we're never coming back here again. And my kids are like, oh, Dad, you know, and so like I learned to be like, all right, I'll give it another shot. Like, okay. But before one and
Like,
done, man.
cut- yeah,
one
cut
and
it
done.
out.
And if
Yeah.
you're my favorite restaurant, I give you 3 strikes.
Yeah.
Like if I
3 is a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 is a lot. Yeah. But like it's like I feel like everything is like those the last couple of years when it comes to either shopping, spending money, learning, education, consuming content, everything has changed so much
Yep.
to an extent in which people can't comprehend or realize.
Yep.
Like it's really unbelievable. And I feel like over the next couple of years, what's likely going to happen is that we're going to continue to see a more extreme version of this, like shorter attention spans.
It's
We're
already
going to
short.
start seeing like people expecting things so fast on demand that it's going to make it hard for small business. Like, have you heard about Amazon doing like these drone deliveries?
Yeah, dude.
Like,
Yeah.
how do you compete with that?
You
know what I
can't.
mean? Like, if you're sitting
You
at
can't.
home and you're like, oh, drone, like I was with my buddy German,
Yeah.
I don't know, like 6 months ago,
Uh-huh.
and he wanted something from Amazon, and he's like, oh, here, and it was like going to be delivered in like 2 hours. I'm like, how the hell do you do that? Like, how would you compete with that? And with
You
the
can't.
drones and stuff like that, if they can just drop it at your property in like
15
30
minutes.
minutes, like,
Yeah.
it's absolutely nuts. But like, I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for people to step in and do really cool things and make money and invest. Like, I think day trading could be cool if you put the work in.
You have to put the work in, and from the investor standpoint too, you could catch some of these trends with like AI companies starting up and just different things where it's like, oh, and so that's the formula that I used and what I teach people. Day trading is just a small little piece of the overall wealth grand scheme of things.
Yeah,
right?
sure,
So
yeah.
like I used my 9 to 5. And I ended up getting a really good job. I was a manager. I ended up working starting as a temp in the lab and worked my way up to a manager, making a $125K salary.
That's good.
It's a good salary,
Yeah.
right? That's where a lot of people want to get to. And I used that. I didn't settle there though. Every time I kept getting a promotion, instead of upgrading my life, which is I think the down for a lot of people that don't know about money, right? What do? They get their nice job and what do they go buy? Freaking car.
Yeah.
Or they
$1,000 car payment. Boom.
$1,000 car
Yeah.
payment, or they get a promotion and let's go get that new house, honey. And it's
Yeah.
like you're never getting anywhere.
Yeah.
You're living above your means. You got to live below your means. You got to eat peanut butter and jellies for a little bit.
Yeah.
And so as I kept getting promoted, I still kept living off like if I didn't have much. And so all that money went into the trading and into the investing, and then I used a small little piece, just $25K, into my trading account, and I blew it the first time. Second time I got smarter and started to grow it to now it's over an 8-figure trading portfolio,
Yeah.
over 8 figures, and all it was just managing it correctly. But I used the high income to learn high income skills, right? So there's a difference between a high income job where you're going to be capped,
Yeah.
and then the high income skills which are limitless.
Yeah.
Right. If
like
done
it's scalable.
or scalable. And then I take that money and then reinvest it into generations.
Yeah.
And how I do that is through real estate, through longer term stock. I still have Amazon and Apple from 2009, dude. 2009.
Yeah.
Like, dude, that itself, I don't have to work or have to trade anymore. The long-term investments, I just sit back and they make millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And that's the whole goal, is to build that money machine. That's what I call it. And so for those that are watching, right, that's what I did. Use the degrees to get my foot in, get the 9 to 5 to get the high income, use the high income to learn high income skills, trading, business, networking, real estate, something that can provide us AI, right? Something where you can scale from it. I think it's really important to have a skill that is recession proof.
Yeah. How
'cause-
long do you think it takes to learn to day trade?
Um,
If they were to do it, if someone were to learn it themselves,
to learn by themselves,
3 years?
2
Two?
to 3 years, 2 to 3 years of consistency. That's how long it took me.
Yeah.
And what it took though was reading books, was being super critical of myself, was studying every day, and kind of getting in that niche. But you got to have the capital too, right? So you can't
Yeah.
just be like, oh, I'm gonna day trade and be like, oh, I'm gonna do it with like $100.
Yeah.
Like, I think a good starting point for like a very beginner is just start with 1,000, right? Because 1,000, I mean, I could go Uber drive like for, my buddy who he was telling me he Uber drives, and he just for fun, and he think it was like $1,000 in a week working like 5 hours
Yeah.
every day.
Oh, really? 5 hours every day? Yeah.
Yeah, 5 hours every day. And I was like, all right, that's cool, dude, I guess, Like,
Yeah.
you could do other things, but it's just to prove a point. It's like, dude, $1,000 isn't that hard to get.
Yeah.
So
Like you can't leave the house without spending 100.
yeah, you can.
You
Yeah,
take
dude.
the kids like
Dude, this
some
trip.
crappy
Oh my
restaurant.
gosh, dude. Yeah,
A crappy restaurant is 120.
yeah, man.
Like, yeah.
Especially with a family of 5, man. It's like, oh my gosh. But you can make $1,000. So I tell people, start with 1,000. and treat it as if it's 10,000, right? Because if you can't manage 1,000, what makes you think you can manage 10 or 100 or a mil, right? It's not. It's the same thing with the economy. People think like, oh, it's an income problem. No, it's a spending problem, right? And so like with traders, they're like, oh, I don't have enough income to make money. It's like, no, it's not your trading account. It's how you manage what you have. So if you can learn to manage what you have, it's just like with how I was saying when I was eating and barely surviving off of 10K and, now make whatever. If you learn how to manage it, then the rest it's just supplemental.
Have you ever thought about managing other people's money?
People have asked me in the very, very beginning. The only reason I don't want to do that and the only reason I'm hesitant to do that is people are greedy, man. People are, egos come into play. And I mean, I even see it sometimes and I'm fully transparent. I even see it sometimes when I'm trading. Like today, I called out a bad trade and some people are like, oh, dude, what the fuck? But he doesn't know.
Scammer, this guy's an idiot.
Yeah, scammer, this guy's a fucking idiot. And then I called out a call trade for a SPY. And as soon as I got in, it dipped down a little bit. So then they're talking all this shit, dude. Yeah. Just like, fuck this guy. And that's their first experience with me, maybe, right? As I wait, because of my experience, all that noise starts to just diminish because now SPY is going up and I'm making money. And the same thing with Tesla is making money. And so you're always going to have that, and these are people that are trading for themselves. Now imagine having somebody that invests $1 million with me to say, hey, I want you to grow this.
Yeah, he's riding you every day.
He's riding me every day.
Yeah.
Every day. And so I'm in a place of my life where, we're in places of our life where it's freedom.
Yeah.
I don't even have to do a business. I don't even have to trade anymore. I could just get up and my investments are making me passive money every single day. And we could be on the beach and walk out on the day $100,000, So it's like, but I love teaching people. So I'm all about, I'd rather teach you how to fish so that you could eat for a lifetime than give you a fish and you only eat for a day.
Yeah.
And it's less stress on my part. It is a little stressful. I'm not going to lie when I am trading and then it's like all these people are listening in and they're wanting for me to succeed. But at the end of the day, you're responsible for your own trades.
Have you ever had somebody like, oh, I lost all this money because you, like, I'm going to if I ever see you, it's on, like, type of thing?
Knock on wood. Like, no. The other thing too is I carry. So like, what people, so what people don't know, and I mean, you could edit this out later, but when I started getting into trading, when we bought our house, I have a sick ass fucking canine dog. He's a German Shepherd. And
I hear they're big now in California. If you always spend like 120 grand to get a canine.
I got him fortunately for 10, and he's our house protector, and we do all the bite work and everything. So then, but I'm like one of those paranoid people where it's like I got the alarm system, and I was like, okay, well, what if they break in? So then I got the dog. I was like, okay, if they break in, the dog's gonna eat his ass.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, well, what if they shoot the dog? So then I got.
Yeah.
And then the same thing when I really like something, I go all in. So then I was like, okay, now that I'm getting into shooting, I want to do it right. So I met my buddy. His name's Knockout Lights, Mike Levy. And spent hours with him and my other friend, Mark Ackenbach from First Defense. And, dude, I'm not as good as them, but proficient, where it's like, dude, if you want to try it, you can try it.
Yeah.
So, like, we have all this stuff in the house. But it's one of those things where it's like, I'm not too worried about that. But from people suing, fortunately not. From people trying to start stuff, not, because at the end of the day, you're responsible.
Yeah, people need to have accountability, but I feel like people have no accountability anymore.
People know how. Yeah, it's just like today. Like I called up put trade, and people were like upset because they went calls on us, and then I jumped in calls, and I made money, but some people didn't want to wait on that little pullback we had for the calls, and so they stayed red. The people that stayed patient ended up making money. They texted me like, "Dude, I went from red to green a day. Like, awesome job." So again, with trading, it's like this whole thing of like fear, greed, ego. A lot of people had some ego today, I guess. It's just one of those things. But yeah, to manage somebody's money, my biggest trading day that I lost was 120K. I ended up making it back and losing max of 60K. I did everything wrong that day. Completely went against all my rules that I preach and teach. But at the end of the day, I don't mind because I can make that 60 back on my own the next day or whatever, which in 2 days afterwards, I was up like 120.
Yeah.
You know, so it wasn't a big deal. But if I lose somebody else's 60K, like, I'm probably going to feel a certain way. You know, I'm going to feel like, dang, I just lost somebody's money, you know? So,
Like when I was younger, I had a family member who, there's a big casino in Jersey called Atlantic City.
Yeah.
Like 15, 20 years ago, it was like the spot to be. It was like the Vegas of the East Coast, right? And I found a member that was, you know, they just had a real big winning streak. I think they won like 35K or 40K. And like then the next day, I don't know if it was the Trump Casino, I don't, but it was like on that strip right there. But they sent a limo for him, right? And he got in the limo, went, bang, gave back that 35K plus like another 30 or 40K.
oh, wow.
And like when the person came back home, you could see the defeat in their eyes. And I'm like, screw that. Like, I'm not gambling at all. And since that day, like, I've only lost one time with a gamble, and it was against Aunt Massey. If you're watching this, like my childhood friend whooped my ass in pool. We started with like $1. He had a pool table in his house, and it started with $1. He beat me 18 games in a row. I just kept getting smacked.
No, dude.
Yeah, and after that, I'm like, I'm done. I'm not trading anymore. Like, I'm not trading, but I'm not betting anymore, right?
Yeah.
And now it's like with real estate or anything, it's like the odds of me winning have to be like 90%. If it's not like 90%, I'm not putting money down.
If I'm not making 15, 12, you know, bare minimum, if I'm not making 12% off of this deal, I'm not doing the deal.
Yeah.
It's a waste of my time.
Yeah. So what like real estate deals are you flowing into now outside of those? Or is that like your main focus?
That's my main focus, just because once those get paid off, like, man, that, you know, at least the way that I look at generational wealth is having something that I can leave behind for my kids.
Yeah.
That they can just have. They don't even have to worry too much about managing it, you know? But it's also then teaching them to keep it and to keep reinvesting. So once those are paid off, I mean, you're talking about, I was already making 3,500 passive. Now when those, and then start to think about years later, you know, when my sons are 20, you know, 20 years from now, like, I mean, the rents are going to be insane.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you think that we're going to, like, what challenges do you see coming for California? Or do you think California is basically like, it's seen it's crazy and it's like basically done?
Do I think it's seen it's crazy? I don't think it's seen it's crazy yet.
Do you think it's going to get like more opportunity for investing, or do you think there's going to be more risk?
I think, I mean, not not to give a half-ass answer, but I think both. You know, I think from the opportunities from investing, what I'm seeing recently, what we've been getting into is like a lot of trust deals, like, you know, the parent dies or the grandparent dies and they leave behind this asset for the kids who don't want to manage it. So then they sell it and then we get some off market deal, right? And now we could make the ADU and stuff, but it's competitive, you know, like from looking at like I have a sibling right now who's looking for a property and there's like 10 people showing up to the property.
Huh.
And you know, the market, there's no inventory in Southern California.
Yeah.
And so with no inventory, there's a high demand, right? Even though with these crazy, absurd interest rates.
Yeah, like, how the hell do people afford it? Like, that's,
you
like,
know,
I was looking on Zillow the other day, like, I was doing a YouTube video, I'm like, talking about Los Angeles real estate, and it was like, the dumpiest beat up duplex you've probably ever seen. Like, it would be like if you saw the movie Friday from like the 90s.
Yeah.
It would be like something that would like fit
like 800,000.
Yeah, 850, 875.
Yep.
And like with 20% down, it was still like $4,000 a month. Like, you have to rent these units for $2,500 just to factor in for like, you know, a vacancy that happens like once a year for a month or whatever. Like, not including any issues, repairs, management, like anything else.
Yeah.
It's like, how do people afford it?
Yeah, how do people afford it? I think a lot of them made big on like the trading buzz. Like a lot of people, I think it was 2019 or 2020 with the whole GameStop and AMC stuff. A lot of people hit really, really big. And I mean, if you look at the cost of the average or the income of the average millennial, a combined household is like $250K right now.
No way, really?
Yeah, dude.
Average millennial is $250?
Oh, to combined. So like they're making like $100,000. Right, so the average millennial right now is probably making in six figures.
No way.
Yeah, yes way.
Like,
yeah, I did these numbers with my buddy. His name's Min. He's a mortgage guy, and
we follow each other on IG. I know the guy.
And he was breaking this down, and it's like the average millennial is making this much. That's crazy, but everything's so expensive.
And they probably have debt through their teeth.
So
like, yeah, they're making $8,000. They're making $8,000, but they're probably spending, you know, student loans, $1,000, car payment, $800.
Dude, I had one buddy.
Like,
I had one buddy come out of college with like $150,000 in debt, and I'm like, how are you ever gonna live.
Yeah.
You know, like that's just crazy. Like, I don't know, but you know, so that's that's something. But I think there's opportunity for. I've seen a lot of flips recently that are pretty good. Commercial real estate, I'm not touching.
Yeah.
I'm not touching right now at all.
Like what I think is going to be the biggest thing in California, and I think it's going to be a model that, mark my words, in the next like 3 years, you're going to see so many billionaires being created. But it's people that are doing these upgrades. They're basically lending money to bring these properties up to these new carbon upgrades.
Yeah.
Like it's because California is now, you know, increasing the cost of energy. They're making things much, much more challenging, moving into like the whole green thing. And so these people that don't have the money to fund that are going to come in and be like, boom,
Boom.
like
Yeah.
all these companies doing like Y Green and all these other ones. And it's like, dude, they're charging like 10 or 11% interest to lend money. And it's like, well, why would you buy a, let's just say, a traditional commercial real estate deal? Like your deal is different because you're adding value in a different way.
I'm adding value in a different way.
If it's like you're buying like a 5 cap, it's like, okay, would investors just go buy a bunch of 5 caps, or would they go lend money on an asset where there's an equity
Of
spread
11%,
in it
yeah.
at getting 10 or 11%? And like,
Yeah, all day long. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't invest. Like I tell friends, like a lot of people think like, oh, real estate, I'm going to buy a condo and I'm going to rent it out. And I'm like, why? Like you can't add anything to that condo other than like maybe a little bit of forced appreciation
and some decreased income from an HOA that's rising.
Yeah, and some decrease and maybe some like write-offs there. But like at some point you're just gonna be capped. Like the only thing that's gonna work for you is as you know rents go up. Like okay, maybe instead of making $500 off of this, I'm gonna make maybe $600 now. But then also the cost of living is up. So it's like, are you really making that extra? Or that's why I force the income where I make another house on property.
Yeah.
Or another living space. So now that's passive. Where now instead of just getting $500 off of a one door, I'm getting $2,600.
Yeah.
You know, or more. You know, so for that, there's a lot of opportunity for that still. Like to make ADUs, junior ADUs, there's a ton of deals.
Do you kind of get to evade rent control legally, of course, by buying a single family house and getting it vacant up front? And then you like, since you add the unit, it's kind of like, it allows you to start the project with less risk.
Yeah, you start the project with less risk.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so do you already have like a set team in place that just basically like you can move from project to project, or do you like, you have like guys that are quitting and then you kind of like keep finding new people?
No, there's a whole set team.
That's awesome.
There's a whole set team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you going to go to any other places in California to invest?
A lot of people are saying that LA is just as comparable as in Ventura County, but I just don't like LA. Dude.
Yeah.
I hate LA. Like the traffic, sorry LA people, but LA people just like, I just hate everything about LA. Ventura County is beautiful, man. It's like a little gem that I don't want other people to like ever go and start building buildings over there. But
like for me, I know what you're saying. Like, but when I moved to California in like 2006, I actually moved to skateboard in Long Beach, and I did that for a couple of years. Basically, ran out of money, became a real estate agent in Long Beach, and then transferred. Became an agent in Beverly Hills and like started falling in love with LA.
Yeah.
But then like the last few years, they just like destroyed that friggin' city, dude.
Dude, it's
like it's
totally
absolutely
straight.
nuts.
There's
like,
homeless people everywhere. They're
like RV encampments everywhere. It's like, dude, I have a 3-year-old and an 18-month-old. And I have my wife.
How are you gonna have a family around there? Dude?
What I'm gonna have,
You
like
can't.
have them walking like at night? No, like I'm gonna have my wife like strapped. You're not even allowed to be strapped in LA. Like
Yeah, LA County is very hard to get a CCW.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible.
Yeah,
like you might as well like just carry illegally.
But but the problem is like when you have tenants in LA, like getting them out is
It's
nuts.
difficult.
I was like, I had this crazy situation. Like I talked about it on this YouTube channel, like I don't know, 6 months ago, where I paid a tenant to relocate. She signed all the documents, and then she saw me on Instagram like 2 years later. And then she went to the city, and the city gave her a city-appointed attorney for free. And then they came and sued me, and they wanted $2 million. It was like absolutely insane. And I'm like, you signed documents accepting the money that I gave you. I gave her like $12,000 to relocate.
Yeah.
You took the money. You spent the money.
Yeah.
Like now you want to come sue me
For more?
Like it was nuts.
For what?
Yeah. So you're like, oh, you bought the property because you wanted to profit. Like, Dude, anybody wants to buy
Yeah.
anything to profit. Like,
Yeah.
who's going to buy anything to not get a return? Like, I bought this
Yeah.
microphone to get a return on it.
Yeah.
Like, everything, like,
Yeah.
you buy for a return.
Yeah.
But anyway, the attorney's like, oh, yeah, like, when it comes down to just the facts of the case, you'd win. But the problem is that you're going to go in front of a jury of her peers, not a jury of yours. So
Yeah.
we got to try to settle it.
Yeah.
And so, like, they took care of it and handled it. But it was still, like, it made me appreciate Florida a little bit more because it's like,
The politics.
when
are
you
lot
buy
better,
a
man.
property in Florida, it's like there's an open dialogue. Like there's actually a conversation. Like in LA City, and it's probably different in Ventura County, but like in LA City, there is no dialogue. It's like eat the rich. The landlord's the problem. Capitalism's the issue. We need to combat inequality by
Yeah.
smashing
Yeah.
the person that has something.
Rich people are the problem, man.
Yeah. But like, yeah, I think it's really cool what you're doing. It's like you're looking at a really unique and creative way to make money from home. But I think that what you're doing is definitely something that's like a learned skill.
Yeah, it's a learned skill, and you got to have the right team and the right people in there to make those ADUs and do the projects and get the permits and do all that stuff. And you know, it could definitely be done in LA too. There's a lot of opportunity in LA to do ADUs and junior ADUs. It's just I just don't like dealing with LA at all. And when I look at it, it's like, do I really want to put more money into California? You know,
Yeah.
it's like, so that's why, you know, we're starting to look, you know, elsewhere. I haven't done the Airbnb stuff yet, but as we've been out here and we went to Disney World yesterday with the kids just to do all that.
Did you do an Airbnb there?
No, well, we stayed in Miami, so I just drove 3 hours back and
Yeah.
forth just all day. But you know, I was looking as we were down there, and I was like, man, there's some like really cool opportunity for, you know, some potential Airbnbs, but I just don't know the numbers for it, right?
Yeah.
That's like I was saying before, whether it's trading, whether it's real estate, whether it's even business, it always comes down to the numbers. So I just got to figure out what the numbers and what the risk is for something like that. But it wouldn't be something I would be against, you know? But,
Yeah, Florida's really interesting because like we have about 20 million people here, right?
Oh,
20 million
smokes,
people
yeah.
and I think it was like 9.7 million households, something like that. But of that 9.7, 1.6 million of them are completely vacant. People that are like snowbirds, people that have bought property
yep.
that are just sitting here, retirees and stuff. So it's like, I always wonder, like, in the event of a real recession, like worse than the great financial crisis, hypothetically, we step into, would a lot of those properties come on the market for rent to generate income? Would they come on the market for sale, right? And so I asked myself, like, okay, if you were to underwrite a deal for Airbnb, you might want to take into consideration a spread that maybe rents could drop 20%, mainly because if you look at rents have risen 35% in St. Pete and
Yep.
35% in Miami. So
Yep.
it's not far-fetched to say, in a
There's gonna be
crazy
a pullback,
situation,
yeah.
could rents go back to where they were a couple years ago?
I think so.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's like, if the answer is yes, and people are underwriting Airbnb deals to say, oh, I'm going to generate twice what current
Yeah.
rents are.
You're crazy.
And then it's like, well, you might not. Like, you might not. So you might want to just like make sure you buy the deal right.
Yeah.
And then you can have a long-term lease option in the event Airbnb, doesn't
Right.
pan out.
Right. 100%.
But like, I would buy in Miami over Orlando all day long. Cause like you
the
probably,
beach. Yeah.
you'd be able to take it, enjoy it with the family more.
Yeah.
Like I bet with Orlando, it's nice and all, but I feel like you get tired of Disney.
Oh, dude. I mean, I was burned out yesterday, dude. We did the VIP tour, so it was a little expensive. It was like $6,000, right?
That's
And-
crazy, dude. Like,
Yeah.
I honestly, I don't like Disney. I don't like what they represent. And so it's like, I don't want to give them any of my money.
Yeah, dude. I'm totally the same, but it's just that, the kids got to get the experience, you know?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm going to pay for the kids to be happy at the happiest place, or what they say, right? So I was like, I'm going to spend $6,000. And I'm very patient when it comes to making money.
Yeah.
I'm not very patient in public. So it's like, if I order food, I'm not expecting that shit to take an hour. So
Yeah.
if I'm in these lines, there's no way I'm waiting in line. So
Yeah.
we got the VIP person. Literally, like I think on one ride, it was like a 120-minute wait, 2 hours.
Yeah.
We went with the tour right up to the front.
Yeah.
And I'll pay for that all day, dude.
Yeah.
I'll pay
yeah.
for that type of treatment all day.
Yeah. And then you like drive past everyone and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
excuse me.
Yeah, excuse me, dude.
Yeah.
We're gonna get on our rides, but they loved it. But I was just like, I heard some people are like, "Oh yeah, we've been here for like 4 days," and I'm like, "Why?"
Yeah. It's a waste of life.
It's like 4 days at fucking Disney World, like
Yeah.
you're crazy. So yeah, that's a good point. We would definitely probably get tired of the Disney World thing. Miami is so cool, dude.
Yeah. A lot of
I-
people are like still buying property here.
Yeah, the
Like-
beach is just it's so awesome.
My wife wants to get a property in Miami because we're like 45 minutes from Miami.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's so nice. Like where we are right now is like a really, really nice area.
Yeah.
But like after you smash all the restaurants and you do all this stuff, it's like, okay, like now what?
Yeah.
And, like I always take my kid to Miami to skate parks and stuff like that because they grew up skateboarding, and he does like the biking stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's like it starts to grow on you. In the beginning, it's like, okay, this is cool, and then you start going more and more. And you're like, oh, there's so much to explore.
There's so much to do, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love I grew up in California, so I mean the beach from where we live is like not even 15 minutes away.
Yeah.
You know, so when I'm staying over here, and the beach over there in California, which you know, it's cold.
Yeah.
Here it's like, dude, I could sit in there all day. It's like a little mini warm pool almost.
Yeah. Well, you got to pick up a property, man.
Yeah, I know.
We'll chill, dude.
Yeah.
Pleasure having you on, man.
Thanks so much, dude. Appreciate it.